Well, bets against the fiscally unfit are multiplying, so says our Colin Barr, talking about a handful of southern European nations and the massive debt crisis they are facing. Let's bring in Colin to talk about that. This is no surprise. We're talking about Greece, Spain, Portugal, you name it, Dubai, in quite a predicament right now. The issue at hand is, what do these nations do? Do they default? No, they can't do that. They'll bring the rest of the EU down with them.
Right. Well, the politics of it are such that Greece right now is in huge trouble. But they spent so much time putting the euro together, the euro area, the common currency, that they're not going to let it just shrivel up all of a sudden. They're not just going to say, oh, well, it's too bad about that. So they're going to, the officials are going to do all kinds of things over the next year to try to hold things together and give these countries some time to work out their problems.
Talk to us quickly about how they got to the predicament they're in right now.
Well, it's similar to what we have in this country, where they went on a big consumption binge. They had housing bubbles. Spain, in particular, had a huge housing, a lot of cheap debt. One of the things that happened when these countries joined the euro was that they got lower borrowing costs, and the lower borrowing costs meant that they went out and borrowed a lot of money, and they couldn't afford to do it, and now they're having trouble paying it back.
But they're battling very high unemployment rates, 19% in Spain, almost double what we have here. Double what we have in the United States at this point.
We aren't exactly in paradise here. I mean, that's the whole problem, is that there are so many aspects to this where we know they have big financial problems. We know that the policymakers are going to try to help them muddle through, kind of pray and delay a little bit. Hope that they grow
pray and
through.
Delay.
Hope they can grow their way out of these problems a little bit. But you have the prospect for big social unrest. You're already having strikes in Greece. The tax collectors have gone on strike. That's a good situation when you're in a big fiscal hole. You can't collect your taxes just what you want. So So it's going to take a long time to figure out where exactly we are on this, and a lot of people believe, or I think to some degree the markets see parallels between this and Bear and Lehman a few years ago, where initially the policymakers were saying this is a subprime crisis, it's contained, there's no way this is going to get worse, and that all turned out to be this big confidence game. And so that's what the worst case scenario is. The worry is that the debts are just too big, and there's not enough money in the world to pour down this hole to make the problem go away.
So is the concern that one of these nations might default, in the sense, as Lehman, in essence,
right? Well,
failed?
I think the people who watch this situation say they don't expect that now. They think that there's not going to be anything this year, because you have all the politics behind it, and you have the fact that right now the markets are really reacting very strongly because we've just started to see the tightening start a little bit with money.
And it's already dragging down our U.S. economy. We saw what the market has done in the latter half of this week, largely as a result of debt crises and a focus on what's happening in Europe right now. So what's the broader effect on the United States as this country tries to climb out of the hole we're in?
Well, I think there's a lot of concern that we had such a big rally last year. I think the consensus now is that the rally got ahead of what the economics really were, that the markets healed because they poured money on the markets and the banks made all kinds of money, and we aren't worried about the banks failing now. But in reality, we still have almost 10% unemployment. Nobody can figure out where the growth is going to come from. You need to grow out of your problems if you have a big debt load, and nobody can figure out how we're going to grow at a good rate. And there's hope with tech and things like that, but there's nothing that anyone can point to with any certainty and say this is how we're going to get out of this problem.